Do you have anything to say to the viewers of the video?
Um, Coke Zero tastes like ass.
That is a valid opinion, good sir. Thank you.
Let's go.
All right, I'm going to go build a 7x7 now
Why?
because I want to. Hello lads, and welcome back to another tutorial for the first one in like a year or something. I don't even know how long it's been, but this is going to be a really good tutorial because we have the better 7x7 that I've made almost, actually it's maybe like 9 months ago I finished this, and I barely remember how to build it, and I barely got this together in the testing world, so we'll see how this goes. But anyways, here is the smaller 7x7 than last time. This one's only 6 deep, has the same dimensions as the previous one, and is a little bit faster and looks nicer. So here's the closing, and the opening is only 2.85 seconds, so it's the same speed as J2Co's one, but the closing is admittedly a little slower because my bottom sequence is super scuffed because there's a zillion sliders that I will have to explain and how I get the pulses and everything. So let's just go right into this. So the dimensions you're going to need for this build are 11 by 6 by 19, I think. Wait, is it 19 or 17? It's 19. Okay, so for the bottom layout, it's pretty much the same as the other one. I'm going to leave, so there's going to be one block of space for the volume here, and then a block here, and this is the triple extender. This bottom block's not used for the volume whatsoever. So if you want to like build this in survival, you have to dig down like 6 blocks. And this one's contained too, so don't worry about the fact that it won't work if you put blocks underneath the main column. I secretly had barriers here the whole time. And I'll explain why this one is contained and why the other previous design was not in the top building section of this video, because there's a lot of stuff to explain and get through, so I'm going to try to build this as fast as I can. So it's going to be 5 storage on the bottom, actually 6 storage, but 5 in the actual storage, because technically this counts as storage in the bottom, because that's how this layout works. So here's the side pistons. Oops. Okay, then I need observers too. So the top just has a flush quint extender. Oops. I'm not speedrunning this. And then on like the long side of the door, also I forgot to mention that the door frame is like 1 block of space on this side and 4 on this side, which is a little awkward, but it was the only way I could fit it because guess what? The bottom layout is 4 wide on this side. So on the wider side, we want to place a triple extender on the back of this quint. And this one is not flush. Place some blocks. Actually, I'm going to just fill in the entire ceiling, but that's later. And then we need to have an observer pusher here because we need to insert observers to this triple in order to power these blocks at this level to power the bottom pistons of the quint extender at this level. And there's one extra block that's after this because we need a redstone line going across the top. And that's another reason why I wanted to use this layout in particular, because it was just easier. Okay, so that's the top. And now we can move on to the bottom inputs. So the first thing we need to do is grab some green wool and some targets. Actually, it's lime wool. And also, I can't find my way around this new inventory. Small rant, I literally can't find anything because there's so many like oxidized cut copper stairs. I cannot find like literally anything. Like, especially when I'm looking for like obsidian or like glass or like especially logs, I can't find them. So I'm gonna have to get used to all of this. All right, so there's gonna be pistons on this side. This is the right side of the door. It doesn't really matter, this part's symmetrical, but the observers will have to be on this side of the door. These are a little tough to place, and also this door only works in 1.16 because there's targets. I'm sure I put that in the title. It's easier to place these in higher versions. And like 1.12 and below, it's like impossible to place these like I showed. Also fixed that because I placed a block below the observers. And now I have to show the ridiculous triple extender inputs. So first off, this is actually the same as the last one, even though there was no need to have this in the previous iteration of the 7x7 due to having more space. Now it's actually going to be needed because we need to have everything be powered by sliders. So that powers specifically the bottom row of pistons. And then in order to power a specific row of pistons when I need them to be, I'm adding a slider right here. It's 2 glass blocks, 5 solid blocks, a glass block. Oh, well, these glass blocks can just be anything movable. And then we need 2 observers here, here, and an orange block because this is mainly used to power this piston here because there is no other way to do it. I'll get into that later. So then the next thing we need to do is place a bunch of observers like this and make sure you have this piston offset one in and this one is on the outside. So then we need obsidian. That's a block of coal. Ah, I found it. Great. Okay, so we need 5 obsidian here because we need this to be immovable for this specific piston here. For this piston, actually, this works because this observer slider starts moving 1 game tick before this starts to push, and it doesn't get updated since. And the immovable blocks form when these are getting slid. There we go. I can form coherent sentences. But I need an updater here for when we push these over to make it a little bit faster. And then an updater here because we need to be able to power the pistons right here from this obsidian. So that's that thing. These obsidian blocks are obviously not going to be sliding. So for the last slider, we need an observer facing in, 6 observers like this, another observer facing in. And I'm abusing update order to power things. So it makes it a little easier. Also, these have to be solid. Just fill that in. Piston on this side. And then we're going to slide this one back automatically as well. And I'm actually purposefully using a lamp here for a specific reason that I'll get into later, but it's basically to make it easier for the door to differentiate between closing and opening because there has to be slightly different moves. So that is the bottom input. Now for the top, this should be a little simpler. Also, I apologize for any background noise that's currently happening. I just decided to make this video out of random motivation that I got out of nowhere. So then observers facing downwards with a line of activator rails on top. And for this line, we're going to be using note blocks, unlike the droppers last time, because we don't have to keep it in 1.11 land, which is always nice. Line of hoppers, this is the same as last time, because these are the only blocks that actually don't power the rails underneath and are also detectable by observers. I'm sure there's another one that I'm going to be pointed out to in 2 seconds, but as of right now, that's the only one I could think of when building the door. So another thing that's different, instead of having rails here like the last one, we're going to have a slider. I'm just going to use blue glass for this. Need a slider here, and need a piston on this side. And that's going to be used for another slider, and it actually is going to be acting as a toggle as well. And then observers facing into here. Last thing, we're going to need some blue wool and just a couple of normal inputs here. There's going to be a couple of updater pistons as well. We need one here, one there, and one here to update the updater piston. And this updater piston also serves as an updater for something else, which is going to be right here. We'll connect that all up later. And then the last thing we need is an updater piston for this side. And that is going to be attached by a purple block because this triple is the purple circuit. Okay, so now that that is done, we can finally move on to the input circuit to get the sides working and also input everything. And also it does the top closing too, but who really cares? All right, so to start off the input circuit, the input block is going to be right here, 2 blocks above this wall thing on the right side of the door. And so, as per usual, there's going to be dust on this block and also dust below it. And then we're going to run slab tower all the way up to this block, and then we're going to keep going. Another one. Then the third one is going to be a block, and then it's going to run into another block. This block has a piston on it, and this piston will have a log on it. And then this log will be attached to 3 leaves in this shape like this, because there is no other way to do it. and that's going to power this observer into this piston like so. That does the closing for the top at an odd game tick, because if we want everything to sync up, we have to have an odd game tick for even the side pistons. So that's what we're going to be doing next. So underneath this block, we're going to have a regular piston, which is going to power this block. Sticky piston facing down there. Activator rail on top. Another piston right here. Need 2 logs again. I don't have them in my inventory. Unlucky. Dude, I'm going to literally be spending 10 minutes of this entire video looking for logs and leaves because they're used so often in the store. Anyways, 1 leaf here powers the top 2. Observer down powers the 3 in the middle. And then for the bottom 2, we're going to use this log and leaf into a block. So that's the sides for this side. We're going to have a dust line running all the way over. Block here, redstone. Target here. And this is actually going to power the observers in because I couldn't fit the pulse in at the end of the opening, so we're just going to put them in during the closing instead, which is actually a better idea in hindsight now. Activator rail and this normal piston be getting updated. Sticky piston here, oops, right there. Activator rail again. And so this sticky piston is actually going to be part of a falling edge. Oh my goodness, I'm looking for a redstone block. So this right here, into a dust. This is going to be a green block. It's used for later. And then we're going to have a piston facing towards us on this target. Observer facing down. I don't have logs. Oh my goodness. Okay. Should be hopefully the last log and leaf for a while, like so. Down into this block here, and that's going to be going into this. Oh my goodness. Bro, the speedrun is not happening today. I am very apologetic for searching through my inventory for a while. So run it up like this on slabs, and that should be the entire input circuit done. I'm not going to test this because I don't feel like resetting everything, but you get the idea. So now we're going to do the bottom circuit first because it's the easiest to mess up, and I don't want to have to redo the entire recording if I do mess up. So I need a log again, and thankfully this time they were just right here. So underneath this block of the input, we're going to have a log and a sticky piston like that. 2 leaves, because it's the most efficient way to get a pulse at 3 game ticks on both edges. And that's important, because we need these things to fire as soon as possible, because we need them to fire at exactly 3.5 ticks in the door, and only on the closing, because it would mess up on the opening. So have a slab here. This powers this, this, and that. And how we don't get this to power on the opening is actually quite interesting. So we have a hopper clock right here. Place an item in any of them. It'll go to this spot right here. And then on the opening, this will instantly retract, allowing this item to go into here. And it's going to power this dust, which is on a slab. I need a target as well, right here. And that's going to be powering this piston only, which blocks the first pulse of this line right here, which is very convenient. All right, and then from this, we're going to be doing the storage with 2 observers and a redstone lamp from this piston, which is also extremely convenient. And then what's less convenient is getting the second pulse to everything. So from right here, this is going to be budded and updated by this. Log and leaf again. Observer facing down to a block. This is going to be an observer right here. Dust on this so it doesn't get powered from above. Then we're going to need to have a note block right here. Dust, a block underneath this lamp so it gets powered again. And that is the entirety of the storage. Actually, nope, not yet. We need to have another pulse going to this line at an odd game tick, and so we're taking it from here. You're going down through a, next to this lamp, place a piston that's going to be going down. Then we're going to push an observer here. And then this is going to be on a slab, like that. Place a block here for this observer to get pushed into. Oh, and then get out of here while you still can. Place a block here, and we're going to need a repeater on this block to redirect exactly this redstone, but not this one, because we need to power that piston. Okay, so that is almost all the storage circuit done. We just need to control these sliders right here. So we're going to need a block right here, and another block right here, and this observer powering the block. We need to power this repeater here. That's going to go into all three of these. This one has to be a slab, because for reasons. Then place a block right here, a piston, and this observer here, and that's going to deal with the specific edge case of this specific slider getting blocked on the closing because it doesn't mess up this piston here. So we just get it from here instead. Same thing. Okay, now that's the entire storage circuit done. And now for the double extender, which is going to be the orange circuit, which is just going to be grabbing the block right here. So for the bottom pistons, because the inputs only allow us to power the bottom pistons, you're going to have two observers coming out from this note block, another note block, which coincidentally powers this, but it actually does not get affected due to the timings, which is something I actually didn't notice until I built it a couple times. Funny how that works. Okay, so an observer here and a repeater here, and this actually effectively gives an update to this piston because the repeater gets powered, or gets processed first, and then it gets updated by the observer, which has a higher tile tick priority, which means it gets processed later. And then this one gets powered one tick later, so effectively this just creates a 4 game tick pulse going to this bottom row of pistons that you can't see, but it's behind these blocks. And so that's the shortest pulse length we can get, unless we use like an odd game tick, which would be an unnecessary amount of space wasted for 0.05 seconds. So this goes into a lamp right here, and then across into an observer. Actually, there's just going to be an observer there, but it's all dust except for this middle block, which has a repeater on it, which looks really silly, but it's actually the most efficient solution. And then we're going to need a block of sand on this piston, or any gravity block. This does not break in 1.18 because it's not being used to power anything at 3 game ticks. So this leads into up here to a block that is going to fall down if I use that block. Orange wool there, and we need an activator rail here. It doesn't need to update that piston, but it does anyway. Into an observer, into a block to power this right here. And then this will actually get pushed back as well at the right timing. So that is going to power the piston right at this level to power that block. And then the last thing we actually need to do is, since this pulse is already pretty much taken care of for us, to grab the blocks at the very end, we just need to use this slider right here to activate these observers to, just activate these observers to grab the blocks, grab the pistons down from up here using this one. So that's mainly what that slider is used for. So how we get this is actually quite simple. We need a slab right here with a 3-tick repeater on it, and then we need a lamp and an observer right here, which is actually not going to be used yet. All we need is this double activator rail, and then 2 observers into this piston right here, and also replace this with a rail if you want to. And so that does that pulse right there. And so that should be almost the entire double extender done, but we do need to get the last block into storage, or out of storage, which actually was a difficult challenge, but there is a weird timing that works. Out of this lamp into 2 observers like this, place a sticky piston right here, an observer here, a slab again right here, and a 4-tick repeater going into this block right here. And that, for some reason, just tends to work out. I think that one was just me trying random stuff until it worked. Now, for the triple extender, I'm going to have a piston underneath this redstone lamp, sticky piston right here, observer out from it, so this acts as sort of a toggle, but as we know, this is not truly a toggle, and it actually will power on both edges, the only difference being that on the closing, this powers 1 tick faster, and the sliders are actually used in a way that makes this sort of toggle between the opening and closing. So for the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to place a block right here. This is a bit of a difficult thing to do, so follow along closely. Go into this area right here. Place 2 1-tick repeaters on these 2 blocks. Place this back. So then go around to here, place an observer on this one right here, so it's detecting that activator rail. And then next we're going to need a hopper, place it on this quartz block right here, so it looks nice. And then have an observer coming up from the hopper, powering these two. Observer going up, block, 2-tick repeater on this yellow block that we've already placed. Observer right here, and then a 1-tick repeater going out of this observer, and then a dust right here to power this. It's actually for one of the last pulses, I think. I don't actually know what it's used for. It's been too long since I've built this. But anyways, so next we need to place 3 observers out from this. So note block and then 3 observers, which is going to connect up with this. Block here, we need a yellow wool right here. And then the bottom pistons are going to be controlled by pushing both of these sliders back. And this is actually happening at a pretty long interval. So then up again into an activator rail here. Remove that block for a moment. Place an observer facing downwards because we need this lamp to be on for a little longer. Dust right there. Up into a block from this activator rail. And then one thing we're going to need to do is do one of the only instances of observer spam in the store. So one observer facing this way next to this comparator thing, and then down into nothing, across behind this hopper, down again, across underneath the hopper, and then down into this rail like that. So that should be 6 observers there. And actually remove that last observer for a second because we need to place a repeater on this 1-tick going into there. Place that back. Need a block there, 1-tick repeater into a block, and we're going to update this with a piston like so. Alright, so that should be all of the bottom circuits done. And figured I should just explain this toggle here. So basically what it does, this actually ties back to this lamp right here. So this lamp actually makes a pulse that blocks this slider from happening on the triple extender during the closing, so it doesn't push up the blocks fully, and it just kind of moves the piston up to here and then just kind of stops. So we can see that happening if I hopefully did not mess up. Yep, you can see that exactly. So that is the entire closing, and you can actually get a pretty good idea if your door is going to work on the opening. If you remove 4 of these blocks, place 2 of them in here, and you can test it right now, so you'll see most of the stuff actually happen like that. And so then all you'll need to do is break all of these blocks and then place in the last 2 storage that was not filled in. Make sure you do not miss any of them. So there's that, and then we're going to have to fix this manually by pushing this over. And, oops, I did not mean to break that. And then I'm too lazy to reset everything, so I'm just going to do the scrub strategies. Like that. So just make sure all of your pistons are in a line. You can break them if you want. Okay, so now for the top circuit. First thing we're going to be doing is getting the instant extension for the top. It's going to be done with a 2-tick repeater and a dust, and that's going to be uncut by this piston right here, which instantly retracts. Then we're going to have break that block for a second, observer facing this way up to here, and then that. And that's actually going to be connecting up this updater. And what this does is just the instant extension, because this gets instantly powered, and then this gets powered at 2 game ticks, and then that pushes down instantly. So then for the third extension, I'm going to need a dust line here, which I actually forgot during the inputs apparently. Observer coming out from this dust again, and then 1 down into a block. We're going to have a dust here and a repeater here, and this input's actually used for a specific reason. And this is actually what made the door contained in the first place, is because this being powered actually does not update this piston when it's at this phase like this, but instead what happens is the piston right here, when it's extending, has an air gap here, and this thing starts retracting at 4 game ticks from this. And so basically what happens is when this is finished retracting, it powers again at 3.5 ticks, which gives this piston, which updates this piston instantly. And since this is on from 3 to 4, it gives a 1 game tick pulse to this piston right here, 1 game tick after these retract, so there's no problems with it being contained. And also for the extension here, there's no way that this one can be uncontained because it is very late in the update chain because it's being butted and then updated from here, which is being updated from there. So how we actually get that pulse for the update for the bottom piston is actually a 3-tick pulse, and that actually updates and retracts it properly. And so that 3-tick pulse is simply going into this block with the dust underneath that observer, and there's another dust right here that's getting powered. So there's that. And then in order to get this observer slider to work, we need a observer coming up from here, this piston right here, and then this block moved up. It actually does not matter because it just gets extended and retracted anyways, and then kind of acts as a monostable. That's unnecessary. It was just the cleanest way to toggle between the closing and opening. And so this is actually going to be a target block right here, and then a slab right here to power those. And then for the second pulse to power the observers down for a second time, this is where this piston comes into play. We're going to be using a slider right here. And this is going to have cyan stained glass right here. And this actually gets toggled by this thing moving over and also this piston right here. It was kind of just two things that happened to toggle the same thing, which is funny. And then to power it, we just have 3 observers out from here into this target block to power this location. So now that that's there, we can add an observer right here, oops, like that, and then this dust right here, and this observer kind of chains the pulse, it kind of extends the pulse. It powers 1 game tick faster than this redstone block would arrive, so it kind of makes it cleaner, and it also helps to retract the observer afterwards, because what's happening is we have this here, and then this is being powered for a long time, and then this is retracting, and then this observer gives a last pulse to retract the observer up to that level. The observer's not there right now, but that's the idea. And this is actually the same circuit used in the 1.75 540 505 that I've made a tutorial on a long time ago. Same trick used there. That was actually my inspiration. So now to continue this thing here. Oh goodness, I've completely lost my train of thought. Observer out from this thing right here over into a hopper here. Oops, observer across. 3 observers down into a block. So directly down from right here into this block is going to be a normal piston right here. And that's going to be going up into this target. And so then we need a block, or a slab here, block that off. A slab here, need a 2-tick repeater there. Go up into an observer, into this. And so then I have a piston here. Then that's going to be powering this observer right here. That's to pull up the observer at the very end, because this gives the double pulse to up here, and so this fully retracts the triple. And then to retract the observer back, we're going to use 2 observers, an activator rail, into this block right here. Also, I forgot we have to push up this slider. So add a dust here, have a redstone torch right here. It's the only redstone torch in the door, I think. Observer here, 1-tick repeater to push that up at the right time. Forgot about that, my apologies. So next to these 5 observers, place 5 observers going this way. That's another instance of observer spam in this door. Low quality wiring. 2-tick repeater coming out from this. 3 dust like so. Up from that first dust, place an observer. Should be right in the middle of these 5 observers. Into a block that powers the top pistons. And then we're going to need a slab right here. Dust. And then this 4-tick repeater right here. And then a block here. And this actually does all of the double extender, because these observers here are getting powered from the note block. So if these are at this level, like that, it will power this piston at this level to grab the blocks. And then to get the last pulse, we're going to need to use a 2-tick repeater here, and then a piston here, and a piston here to grab the last, to grab the observer up at the end. And to fully retract, or sorry, to grab the block up, because this time we're retracting the block that's being right here. So with that, we can have another block here, a 2-tick repeater, 2 observers, one facing up, one facing across, into this double pulse generator. And then this right here will fully retract the triple extender, 2 observers. So that is the observer extender done. Now the last thing we have to do is retract this flush quint. So first things first, this will only get powered by the 3-tick pulse going in, because all subsequent pulses are going to be shorter than this torch to recognize. So we'll only get powered once. And then we have a sticky piston right here that's getting powered by this torch, observer facing upwards, block right here, level with the rest of those. Slab here with a 1-tick repeater on it. The first pulse is going to be an observer across. There's going to be an observer here for later. Dust, that's going to be going up into this line. Second thing we're going to be doing, placing a block here, piston facing downwards here, activator rail on it, and have an observer facing into the slab, observer facing into this space right here, and then a piston that connects this line up. And then this double pulse right here is going to get interrupted by this 4-tick repeater, which actually does the final pulse for this line. So we don't have to have any more pulses there. And then need 2 observers up like this. Block, 2-tick repeater to power this slider back at the right time. Dust right here. Blocks and a 1-tick repeater powering this line. And then for more double pulses, to retract the whole thing, 2 observers out from here over this torch, 1 up. This is going to be a note block right here. 1 up from the note block into this block to double pulse that. And then for the final double pulse, we're going to take it out from this note block towards 2 observers toward this glass block. One observer up, a block here, activator rail like so. Then you can break these 2 and then have 1 observer facing across and 2 down into this dust. Block that off again, place this back, and place a repeater like this. That should be the entire door done if I haven't made any mistakes, which I probably have, but we will find out. So that's the closing. And there it is. I did not make any mistakes. Wow. You can fill in your door frame like so. And that's your entire door done. So the input for this is a little weird, I will admit. And there's actually a way to power this with a dust input, but it is like 1 block larger. If you want to use a repeater, just put it in like that. It works completely fine. There's no input bug on this door. But if you want to power it instantly, what you're going to have to do is replace this block with a slab, and place 1 more block right here, because the signal strength will still reach, but you must place your instant repeater or lever on this block. Like, it must be right here. You must have full signal to this block or the door will not work. So you can either place a lever on the wall here, or you can wire it in from somewhere else using an instant repeater. Like that. And you can have this attached to whatever you want, and then this will work out fine. Alright, so that is the entire door. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. This block's supposed to be yellow. And I'll see you all for...